Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. Like we've said earlier, um, this is purpose. This is purposely to uh, um, inform or educate our viewers here about what is happening in northern Ghana. And I have with me Nana Kofi Poku. He is a principal meteo at the Ghana Meteorological Agency, popularly known as GMET, and I would be engaging him very shortly here on the weather patterns in the northern part of the country. You are welcome, Mr. Nana Poku Kofi Poku. I'm sure you've of the country. Earlier this year, you've made some predictions about the weather patterns in the southern part of the country, and you also made later predictions about the weather patterns in the northern part of the country. Uh, have you heard about the situation in the northern part of the country where farmers are still waiting for rainfalls? And did you, expect such a situation to happen at this particular moment?
All right, thank you so very much, Nuruddin. Just as you have already alluded, we've issued a subsequent update of the forecast for the south, but a new one for the northern part of the country. In the forecast, you realize that unfortunately I don't have it here, so I cannot share it. We forecasted that the northern part of the country will be having mostly normal onset dates, but the upper east, upper west, most places in those areas would have a normal, an early onset, and there will be a normal precipitation. Now, normally when we say normal, I wish I could have a table, then I would display it. We've segmented the north into three areas: the northern, the upper east, the upper west, then the entire savannah, northeast, and northern parts of the country into one zone. So we have three different areas in the north. And therefore, our expectation was that there's going to be normal rainfall, however, with
Hmm.
intermittent dry spells. But it looks like the dry spells we're experiencing at the moment, either it is more than anticipated, or the
Hmm.
rains, when they come, are not heavy enough, or they don't stay long enough. So the rate of evapotranspiration is also high, and therefore, after a day or two rainfall, almost everything gets evaporated, and therefore the farmers are not able to get enough moisture for whatever activity that they are doing. Yeah, so we are monitoring, and we realize that yes, there are complaints coming from farmers across the northern parts of the country that they are facing challenges here and there with the rains. However, there are areas too that they're also getting normal rainfalls. Some are even getting excess rainfall as we speak at the moment.
Hmm. But is it, a normal situation or weather condition that we do expect? I know that in the past you have records of what happened in the past. Did we ever experience such a situation in the past?
I'm sure. I think last year was even worse. Last year was worse than what we are experiencing currently. Um, what I can say is that normally between July, mostly it occurs around the third or the fourth week of July, through to the first week or thereabout of August, between the first 2 weeks of August, we experience what is normally referred to as a little dry spell.
Hmm.
Now, during that time, the rains are season in the southern part of the country, and around that time, what we call the intertropical boundary has also shifted, and it's now within the northern domains of the country. And around that time, there is a little period of dryness, and I think that is what currently the northern part of the country is experiencing. However, normally by the second week or thereabout of August, it will pick up, and that is where we're going to experience the intense rains. That is going to be more destructive because it's going to be windy, coming with strong winds and things like that. At the moment, we are within the little dry spell phase, but we anticipated that the little dry spell phase will be lasting um, just between 17 to 20 days for areas in the north. Yeah, but it looks like, just as I said, the rains they've been experiencing in the north in between are not heavy enough. And therefore, if they even experience a rainy day and the amount is not heavy enough, what then will happen is that after the rains, when it's about a week or even 7 days, 8 days, 9 days, and there is no further rainfall, quickly the ground gets drier and they begin to feel the impact of the absence of the rains.
So I want us to talk about the fear of farmers and those who actually rely on this rainfall for their, I mean, several activities. I am on different platforms, and there are a lot of concerns coming from, I mean, my colleagues in the north who are very afraid that this can affect their production. What could be the cause of this delay or the dry spell that we are talking about? I mean, what can we do to avert some situations like this?
Right. So you see, normally around this time, what should be happening is that, just as I said, once there is the intertropical boundary moves deep into the northern parts of the country, way into the Sahelian areas, what should be happening is that all these places, moisture from the ocean would have to move deep into the north, and it will affect the precipitation there. However, what we're experiencing at the moment is that there are low pressure centers mostly around the southern part of the country. So the rains, the moisture that is supposed to move deep inland to strongly affect the northern parts of the country, most of them are trapped by the low pressure centers within the southern part of the country. As we speak, it is still raining in the southern part of the country. That is something that for the past, I think, 5 years, we've not experienced this particular phenomenon in the past 5 years. Mostly by now, the rains in the south would have ceased, and then the northern rains will be becoming intense. So as there are low pressures here, because most of the systems or most of the moisture is moving from the sea, from the ocean, deep inland, you'll find out that the conditions are rife for precipitation within the southern part of the country. But however, just as I said, by the second week of August, we are very sure that the rains in the north will pick up, and it will become more frequent, and it will be more heavier than they are experiencing currently.
So there are also concerns about the vegetation cover in the north and lack of probably these water bodies in the north that could, I mean, contribute to this particular situation. I mean, can we agree with some of these, I mean, concerns coming from individuals? I mean, those who from the northern part of the country, they are raising concerns about the vegetation cover, and as well as the water bodies and the rest. I mean, which lack of them that, I mean, are actually influencing the situation we are experiencing now.
Yes, vegetation is also a part, because you see, normally uh, high pressure systems goes along with low temperature areas. And remember, we are dealing with redistribution of water. The simplest definition of rainfall is the redistribution of water that has turned into moisture into the atmosphere. So there are conditions that attract rainfall, the pull factors that normally attract rainfall. So when the vegetation is simply not there, where there is enough evapotranspiration, so there is rising motion, then there is sinking air and things like that, it can impact on the rainfall patterns of the area. So that is established. However, the most important features that we need to be experiencing around this time is number one, to get to know where the systems or the moisture is moving from. If the oceans are they are very warm, then obviously what will happen is that more moisture will rise into the air and the winds will carry them inland. As it carries them inland, if there are high pressure systems, mostly in the south, it will resist this air and therefore it will move. It will move high up across into other areas. And because around this time, if the pressure systems in the north are much lower, then it will induce the rains. So normally when the season is well established, as we are getting now, this is the patterns that normally happens. And therefore, we are experiencing this usually as I said, because the pressure systems in the north rather are higher and the pressure systems in the south are a bit lower, and therefore it is attracting more moisture and getting the rains to form here in the southern part of the country. That's the challenge we are facing now. Vegetation generally is a major principle in rainfall redistribution. Yes.
We are almost getting to the end of this, very short interview, but my issue, and there are also posts or questions that I was compelled to answer some questions on WhatsApp groups concerning about this dry spell.
Yeah, hello, I can hear you.
Yes, some questions, some friends sent me questions they were asking, and I was compelled to answer some questions on WhatsApp groups concerning about this dry spell. Some think that it is drought, and others say it is a dry spell. But from your, you are an expert in this field. What exactly are we experiencing in the north? Is it drought or dry spell? And what is the difference? Because mostly we hear drought, but when you say dry spell, people become confused. They think that it's a new thing. They don't understand. So what is the difference? What exactly are we experiencing in the north? Is it a dry spell or drought? And what is the difference? And at what point can we say a particular location, a community or country or region is experiencing a drought?
Right. So basically, what we're experiencing in the north at the moment, I can refer to it as dry spells. When we say a dry spell, what is a dry spell? Dry spell simply means the consecutive number of days you can go without precipitation. For purposes of our Greek, we define
Rainfall.
precipitation as when you do, rainfall, sorry. When you do a measurement
Yes.
and you are not able to record more than 1 millimeters of rain. So you can have a cloudy condition. You could experience a bit of rainfall. But if the measurement is not up to 1 millimeter or above, if it is not up to 1 millimeter, then we call that as not a rain. For us, for purpose of our Greek, that one is not a rain. Right. So if we have these number of dry days, and it should normally last up to about a month. If the longest time you have not had any rainfall is up to about a month, then we call that one dry spells. Now for the drought is a prolonged period of abnormal low rainfall or no rainfall. Prolonged, abnormal, low or no rainfall at all, such that now you begin to feel that there is shortage of water within the immediate environment, in the soil, in the crops or plants that you have grown. It is at that point that we normally say that, oh, this one is drought. And droughts, it takes a longer time for you to notice that indeed there is drought. For agricultural drought, it takes almost about 3 months before you're able to notice that, oh, okay, the vegetation is completely depleted. Soil moisture is almost, net value is almost zero. And then you begin to see that you begin to feel the impact. Where even around you, you find out that the water bodies even around you is so dry. Then you begin to talk about
And
drought.
animals are dying.
But exactly, exactly. That is when you begin to talk about drought. But at the moment, when you go for about, because you are in your season, so you expect that the frequency of rain should be higher. Every other 5 days, every other week, or something, there should be rain. But if you're not experiencing it that way, and now it goes to about 2 weeks, about 3 weeks, you've gone without rain, those ones are normally referred to as dry spells. Yeah, so those are the major differences between the two.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Nana Kofi Poku. I'm very grateful for your time, and I'm sure that our viewers would now understand the difference between dry spells and drought. And so, what is happening in the northern part of Ghana isn't drought, but rather dry spell. And Mr. Kofi actually mentioned some terminology, the evapotranspiration and
So,
precipitation and others. I mean, sometimes
yeah, briefly, it is
you see, mostly, yeah. So
it is just
sometimes,
the rate at which the crops and the soil lose water together at the same time. That is simply the evapotranspiration, a combination of transpiration for the crops, evaporation for the soil and the environment. That is what is known as the evapotranspiration. Yeah, hello. Hello, Nuruddin. Hello, Nuruddin. Oh, okay. Right, great. Right. Thank you very much. Right. Bye.
So I'm trying to get Mr. Coffee back so that we could end this particular interview. We're trying to look at some of the terminologies that he mentioned, and he would briefly explain to the understanding of our viewers, and would also decide when we can talk about different topics like the interpretation of the weather forecast. I mean, one that is coming from GMAT. Mostly, people don't really understand this terminology. Weather forecast from GMAT. So, Mr. Um, so,
Yeah,
Mr.
Nuruddin, I'm
I think
back.
sorry. I think we had a problem with the connection, and
All right, right,
I don't.
right.
So many calls were coming in, and I had to. Um, I mean, and some of them, because I think that is why the network actually, we got a problem with the network. But we are talking about the terminologies that
Okay.
you used, and for the sake of our
Yeah.
viewers, most of them don't really understand some of these things that you mentioned. And I'm also want to
Okay.
suggest that if we could find another time and talk about the weather
Okay.
forecast. I mean, a lot of people still don't understand the weather forecast. And so
Okay.
when GMET issues the weather forecast, they don't have that interest to even read it because they cannot
Look at it.
understand. Yes. So first, let's look
Right.
at the terminologies that you use. I mean, you were trying to explain them.
Right. So number one, let me talk about when I talk about intertropical boundary. It's simply warm air coming to meet dry air. The warm air normally carries moisture, water vapor. Then the dry air normally does not carry that thing. So that boundary where there is an interface between these two areas, that is what we normally call the intertropical boundary. So when the moist air is moving inland and pushing the dry air away, then obviously it is coming along with moisture and therefore it is able to create rains. So when I talk about the intertropical boundary, that is what really I mean. When I talk about the evapotranspiration, we are just looking at the rate at which the plants or the crops are losing water together with the immediate surroundings. So the rate at
Hmm.
which vegetation is losing water to the atmosphere, that is what is referred to as evapotranspiration. So when you have low rainfall and yet you have high sunshine, the crops are losing water, the soil is losing, or the soil cover is losing water at a higher pace, then obviously you realize that the crop from right from the roots to the leaves and the stems and the things will need to replace the water. And once that is not happening, then obviously you find the impact on the crops and farmers will really feel the effect. So you can have rainfall, but if the rainfall, if it even rains every 3 days and the rainfall amount is minimal, there is a challenge with it. And
Let,
all
let,
these are due to the factors that I've
that is
already
less than one.
explained. When exactly, or you
That's
can
less than
even
one
have
millimeter,
five
right?
millimeters.
Hmm.
You can even have 5 millimeters. If you have 5 millimeters, and the rate of evapotranspiration is also 5 millimeters, then within a day or two, all the moisture would have, been gone. So then the
Hmm.
soil becomes drier, and it becomes a challenge again, for the farmer.
Hmm. But is it not a case where if we have higher evapotranspiration or even transpiration, then we are also,
Mhm.
the higher we get it, then we are also likely to get rain, because the more the moisture content or the moisture rises into the atmosphere, the likelihood of the cloud forming is very high. And so
Great.
in instances like that, we are also likely to get rain. So
Okay.
I'm trying to understand why.
Right, right. I get you. Normally weather is boundaryless. It doesn't have any boundary.
Hmm.
So water could evaporate from your area to form clouds, but the clouds may move.
Okay.
These clouds are driven by winds, strong winds at the upper level and at the lower level. So
Once they are moved by the winds, once this system gets to places where the winds are calm and slow, then the system will now be moving at a slower pace. So the more moisture that feeds the system, then it will come down as rain over those areas. When the system is moving and it gets to your area where you also have strong winds, high pressure system simply means there are strong winds coming out of these systems, and they are resisting the winds that are coming into your area. And therefore the storm either may dissipate and move across different areas, or may stay in the area where the pressure is low and the winds are sort of, they are weak, and it will rain in those areas, and it will not move back to your area. So that is the principle. Yes, the moisture that goes up into the atmosphere will go, and for all things being equal, will form the clouds. But most importantly, your local conditions is also very important for the redistribution of the moisture that has gone into the atmosphere. So that is
So,
a simple explanation for that one.
finally, what is the link between this and a situation where a rainfall will be rainfall will be falling. For instance, a rainfall will be falling from just a meter away from another community. For instance, a rain will be falling in, let's say, within Kumasi, maybe Tafo,
Mm,
and you are just a
mm,
meter away, and you are not experiencing that
mm.
rainfall. I'm sure you've had people raising these concerns before you that, oh, no, we can see the rain
Several,
is raining in somebody's house, but it is not raining in my house. Is
several.
it? Do
Yeah.
we have? Does it have any link with the explanation you gave that the clouds can move from one point to the other, and therefore
Mm-hmm.
it might not rain at where we have the high evaporation, but it will move to another place, probably where it didn't even have any um, evaporation, higher evaporation, and therefore the clouds will
Right.
move there to rain. Does it have any link with situations like that?
Uh, uh, it can, but I can say that it has minimal. It has minimal contribution or impact. What we're saying. See, every system when it's approaching, there is a central part. It's like when you are tracking a storm, hurricane or things like that. There is the eye of the storm, the eye of the system that is moving. If it is a system that is moving, so where there is the intensity in that storm, those places would obviously have the rains. The peripherals of this storm may have the rains, but the peripherals extends to a certain few meters away from where the eye of the storm is. And therefore, you can have, just as you use Tafo and a nearby area in Tafo, where the Tafo is the peripheral of the storm, and they will get some of the rains. But then the next town after Tafo would be away from the peripheral or from the eye of the storm, and they might not get it. The other one is also the local condition. There could be local condition, local effects. That is purely within just the area. And with those situations, you find out that within the larger domain, the whole Kumasi, you will realize that it doesn't rain. But you can single out maybe Tafu, and you find out that Tafu alone is raining. That's where most of the time vegetation plays a key role. So that you find out that places where there is high vegetation, the chances for that area recording that particular type of rainfall will be higher than the places where the lands are bare. Yeah, hello, Nuruddin. Hello, hello, hello.
I can hear you.
Right, right, right. because I saw you went off briefly. So
Yeah, so
uh,
I think we need to let's end it quickly. I think the network is not helping us there.
right, right. So just as you said, yes, we need to find time so that myself and Joshua can come together. Then we will do a proper, lengthy explanations of the kinds of forecasts we release, its interpretation,
Mm,
and how it can guide or help the various users, to use it appropriately and plan with it. I think it will be
mm,
it's something that we can do.
mm.
Right.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Kofi. I think we would also talk about this. I mean, rainfall abnormalities that that's how people call it. I mean, you wake up, you look through the
Oh, it's
window,
true.
your colleague's house. It's raining in your colleague's house, your neighbors, but it's not raining in your house, and so people, I
It's
mean,
true.
have different perception about that.
Tend to get
So I'm
confused.
sure in our next, I
Yeah.
mean, engagement, we'll talk about that and several other things. Thank you
Right.
so much for your time. I'm very grateful. And that is Mr. Nana Kofi Poku. He's a principal
Right.
meteorologist at the Ghana
Yeah.
Meteorological Agency, and they are in
Mm.
charge. I mean, they are those who always issue our weather forecast in the country, and mostly you guys do have issues with them, and I'm sure they are addressing some of the concerns that we've been raising, and some of them are actually working. And now, if you monitor the weather forecast, you realize that, I mean, everything is now perfect. I mean, things are happening like they expect, and so in our next engagement, we'll talk more on these issues and how to understand the weather forecast. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so grateful. Bye bye for
It's a
now.
pleasure. Bye. Bye.